And we're live.
There you go. Hey, folks, welcome back to Soaring Profits. As you can see, we've added another little square over here on Hollywood Squares. And James, maybe you want to take over and kind of give us a little background into Denise and
Yeah, for
how you know her.
sure.
Kind of
I first met the lovely Denise. I've been talking about her for the last couple of days. She is my sunshine in the morning. She has this wonderful business called Inner Compass Travel that's on Instagram. And every morning she puts out this beautiful post that's inspirational, talks about travel, just talks about sunshine. In fact, there's a little TikTok that she goes like this and goes, I'm going to share your sunshine. You've all seen people do that, but she's adorable when she does it. Exactly. So she is the other half of a very lucky man named Colin, who happens to be my godson, and is the son of Mike, who you guys met 2 weeks ago. She knows more about travel than I could even possibly think of. She's traveled extensively around the world, and now she sets up very interesting travel opportunities for people and has done like groups of people to share experiences, both spiritually and also just fun. So, Denise, if you could tell us a little bit about Intercompass Travel.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, you guys. I'm super excited to be here. So yeah, my name is Denise. I'm originally from Germany, as you can maybe hear from my accent. I'm from a small little town in the Black Forest, and yes, that's where the Black Forest ham and the Black Forest cake is from.
love it.
And I basically, to keep it short and sweet, traveling has changed my life. I was working in a corporate job. And with 24, I was super unfulfilled and didn't know where to go. And I basically left my job and went to Australia backpacking for 9 months, which, yeah, like I said, changed my life. I really was able to discover who I really am, what my purpose is, and, just like connect with myself and with the world and the planet and the environment and all of that. And yeah, traveled to 30 plus countries. And when I came back, I got a job opportunity in Canada working for my old corporate job. And I knew that I didn't want to go back into this corporate world, but I just couldn't resist having a work permit to come to Canada for 2 years. Yeah, that was 4 years ago. I met Colin,
Mm-hmm.
James's godson, on Tinder. He was my first Tinder date here in Canada. And last year, I became a Canadian permanent resident and left my 9 to 5 right away to start my travel business. And yeah, here I am. Now I'm really trying to. I focus on travel coaching. So I really try to help first time solo travelers gain confidence to travel solo. Because I know that there are so many fears and limiting beliefs around travel, and I went through these as well. So that's basically what my passion is, what my purpose is, to really kick people in the butt and bring them out into the world. And I also am a travel agent, so I'm really trying to get group trips together, retreats together, and really just like transformational experiences through travel. So that's what I do.
Yeah. So your last trip was a group of women, I believe. And I only saw some of the Instagram posts, and it just looked amazing. Can you give us like a little run through of those days?
Yeah, so that was a spiritual retreat in Mexico, in Tulum, Mexico. It was a week with 10 other women. And we basically went through a lot of like inner work. So we got up every morning and did yoga, meditation, journaling, and all of that. And then we did also a bunch of like Mexican ceremonies, such as a temazcal, which is like a sweat lodge. Like you go into the sweat lodge, it's like super tight, and like just you walk in on your knees and on your hands, and it's like completely dark, and it's basically an experience of 2 or 3 hours. And it was, yeah, I can dive more into that, but anyway, so that was one of
Yeah.
the experience. And then we did ecstatic dance, we did a mushroom ceremony, we did a cacao ceremony. So we did really a lot of like inner work, and the retreat was called higher self. So we basically did a lot of work around finding, your higher self, getting over your fears, and really just like going into this rebirth state, which is also for the Temescal. They say when you enter the womb, you basically come out as a new person and you're reborn. So that was the whole topic around that. And then I stayed for another 5 weeks in Mexico just to deeper my experience and connection, and really just integrate what I've experienced in that week of healing and sisterhood and plant medicine and all of that. So that was really transformational for me, I have to say. It just put me into this next level of connecting with myself and just showing up authentically, because to be honest, for example, showing up live on a podcast like this, like before that retreat, I would have never done it, because I was just so afraid of like people judging me for my accent, people judging me for certain things. So after that retreat, I was just transformed, and that's exactly what I want to offer to people, because I just think travel is such an amazing tool to heal and transform. So yeah.
I think that's fantastic. It's interesting that you're concerned about your accent, because my German accent is getting very good. However, your English is better than my German. So very cool.
Thank you.
No, like, so that is kind of shocking. And it's a lot of what I talk about. Like you and I have had, we had a talk at your birthday around the fire about it a little bit. And it's a lot about what I talk about and what Pat talks about. So Pat's a money finance guy, and I'm kind of a motivational self-help and stuff like that. And we talk a lot about things come from in out. And so when I started and Pat started, we were kind of like just chatting, and we loved the conversations, had a lot of fun. And I just was like, people want to hear this stuff. Like, people don't have these conversations anymore. And the barrier that we had mostly was how people were going to take it, how people were going to think, what do I look like, all that stuff. And I had those hangups too. I had a lot of hangups about the way I looked, the way I sounded, like my voice. No one likes their voice. So you have to do a lot of inner work, just like you're saying. And once you do that inner work and you feel positive inside, and you can look in the mirror and love yourself, basically you can do anything. You can walk on the moon. It really, nothing stops you anymore. And I have not, like, I don't even give it a second thought anymore. Like, I don't even, like, when I'm on the podcast, I'm not worried about what I look like. I don't worry about what I sound like. A lot of times, like last night, I worry about what we talk about, but that's only because we're talking about very sensitive things that I know people get upset about. And so it's sensitive. But to think that you at any moment would think that your accent is not okay, or that you don't look great, or that what you have to say isn't important, is shocking. Because every conversation I've ever had, or anytime I ever listen to you, it's captivating. So, like, you have such great knowledge to share. I know that we had a very personal talk around the fire there, and it was uplifting to me. Like, you really helped me. It was one of those moments that I talk about where you meet inspirational people, and those people help heal and drive you forward. So I love that. The question I kind of had was, so you said there were 10 women involved in that trip. Now, are they complete strangers? Did they contact you? How's that all work?
So basically, Karina, she lives in Tulum, and she basically organized this retreat, and she advertised it on Instagram, right? So, and that's what I learned too with like going traveling. It's just like, you're not, again, I'm from a small little village with 3,000 people, everyone knows everyone, and you can't be yourself. And like, if someone doesn't know you, they don't talk to you. They're like, who is this? I don't even want to have a conversation with this person. And going out in the world and really travel and just like, staying in hostels and just like meet strangers and having such good conversations, right? And get inspired, and like, just like changes your view. And for me, that whole thing with like Instagram, a lot of people complain about Instagram. For me, Instagram is such a great tool to stay connected with all of the friends around the world, and also to meet new people. Like, I have a whole community on Instagram, just like a travel community, a spiritual community, and like just especially women who uplift each other and like support each other and are rooting for each other, cheering for each other. And this is how we all found Karina, right? So you definitely have to be in, I know one girl, she was a little nervous. It was her first time. She was from England, and it was her first time going on international travels and solo travel and all of those things. And she had a really hard time being, with strangers,
Right.
and not knowing who there was. So I know that this is definitely a thing. For me, I don't know, I believe a lot in energy and law of attraction and all of those things. And I just knew that, like, I didn't even think about something bad. I knew that this will be an amazing group of girls, because, like, everyone who feels drawn to that experience is definitely, on the same level as me. So that's why, we built like sisterhood. Like, I came back with like 9 sisters, and it's just beautiful. And this is how you just make connections all around the world,
Absolutely. Yeah, no, like when you share experiences like that, in-depth experiences, like Pat and I have shared a lot in life. So like I'll admit this right now, but no one will ever hear it again. We are brothers, and like much like Mike, there's certain people in this world that I would do anything for, and the guy right here is one of them. He's done so much for me, and I get that. Like, so we've shared a bunch of experiences, and when you share experiences, whether they're dark or light or spiritual, they bond you in a way that nothing else can bond you. Like, it's not like just a casual conversation. So I completely understand that. And I have those fears. Like, I talked to you about those fears about traveling solo, because I like to control things. I like to know what's going on. I like to, I would like to land in Ireland and have a plan. But I also, there's a big part of me that would love to land in Ireland and not have a plan. Like, I'm going to land in Ireland at this time, and I have to be back at the airport at this time, and that's it. That's my whole plan, and I would love to do that. But the fear is that, like you said, you don't know how people are going to react to you. You don't know if you're going to make a connection, because if you don't make a connection, it would be hard to transverse in another country. So those are the kind of things I worry about mostly.
Right. Yeah. So a situation like that, it's funny that you bring up Ireland, James, is that, I've always wanted to do Ireland. I'm Irish. My background is Irish, not enough red hair apparently, but we're working through it. But my father, he just recently passed away from cancer. And one of the things that he wanted to do before he had passed away was do Ireland. He had never been back kind of to the home country. And obviously with COVID, that was impossible to do for him, right? And that was one of the things that when we were talking about planning trips, what this looks like is we're like, yeah, we want to get there and just have no itinerary. Like, just go in, crawl into a pub, and if you leave that pub in 2 minutes or 4 days, then that is what it is, and just kind of roll with it. And my last name is very Irish, and it is like Smith over there. So it's kind of one of those things that when you walk in, we just figured we likely be adopted. Probably adopted, taken in.
Yeah.
And but I think that for me, and again, very much like James has said, letting go of that control facet, trying to release the grip of knowing and planning and structure and that. And someone like myself, and James would probably attest to this, I am not that guy.
No.
I'm, as much as I'm fly by the seat of my pants are very well tailored, zipped up, and belted tight.
Yes.
So like, I roll by the seat of my pants most times, but with very structured outline of what that look like.
Yeah.
So to break that, how do you kind of suggest that, someone like myself who, I was very fortunate. I've traveled to a few countries. I've done all across Canada, all across the United States with business stuff when I was younger, but it was business stuff. Like, again, it was independent, but it was structured. I was the flying to the Dominican or the Mexican all-inclusive, hope that somebody pours me into a cab the day that I'm supposed to get on a plane, and then come home. So how would you, like, as the virgin solo guy, how would you kind of break somebody into that?
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely the fear of unknown, right? And that also, it's not just traveling. It's like with a lot of things, we have a lot of fear of the unknown. We always want to be in control with everything, right? And that's why I think that's also for like solo travelers is like, and there's nothing wrong with like planning your itinerary, right? Like, I mean, that's all about like goal setting, really like just figuring out where do I want to go. So you can definitely have a little bit of itinerary, like these are the places, do a little bit of research, this is where I want to go. But definitely try to like just keep a little bit of space in between to go with the flow, to do all of those things. And it's just, what I always say is that, a lot of people, the fear of unknown is also the fear of like something could happen. What if I don't connect with people? What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? Right. And a lot of people also don't have enough confidence to trust in themselves that they can deal with every situation that life throws at them. Right. So what I always say too, and that's what I do with my coaching, I'm more on the spiritual travel coaching side. What I do a lot is like connect with your intuition. Like your intuition is a really, really powerful tool that, when you get in certain situations or like have to make a decision, like, oh, maybe I should go this path instead of this path. Or when you meet people, like not feeling the vibe, right? Like I shouldn't go there, right? So that's something I would say, definitely connect with your intuition, and also start small, like you don't have to go on this extreme trip, like going to Ireland all by yourself. You can also start with a small trip going to the next city you've never been to by yourself, right? And just like
corner store count.
Sorry,
does the corner store count?
Yeah. Exactly. But you do that like 5 times and then you're comfortable. So then you're comfortable going there, and then you can go to the next corner store, right?
Yeah. That's it. A little farther out. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So you can really like go to a resort by yourself and then just play that out and get used to it and make day trips or something. Kind of ease yourself into it rather than just everything's not planned.
See, and I would find that way more uncomfortable going to a resort than just land me in the middle of Mexico. Like I've done some work travel into Mexico, and like literally industrial heartland Mexico, in Leon, like Guadalajara, Mexico, like desert, crazy, cartel, wild. And we were down
there. I forgot to mention this. Pat is a drug. Did I know?
Yeah, drug dealer. Yeah, so like crazy stuff. Yeah. And we were there with a translator from the Canadian government, and that was it. Where it's like, I guess this is where we die. But I was way more comfortable talking and doing business there than I think I would be going to a resort. Like I feel like there's cliquey resortness. Am I wrong in saying that? Like the people that go to the resort, they kind of have their little clique of people, and then they like maybe meet 5 or 10 people, but that's it.
I have so many things to say about resorts. And since this is an open space, I mean, I can share my
whatever you want.
So for me, and I don't want to offend anyone, and I totally get, like my family, we used to go to resorts, and I totally get the whole idea around resorts. But for me, going on a resort is not traveling for me. Traveling for me is like being out there, being in the country, getting to know the culture, getting to know the people, getting, like just go on this adventure and having these experiences. I mean, yes, when you're on a resort, you can go on a like day trip or whatever, but for me, like traveling is just such a tool to like really explore yourself, explore the world, explore like everything around you, right? And what you just said, Pat, like just sitting in a resort and having your drinks served, you could basically be in a resort in Canada, like it doesn't matter. I mean, there's a beach, the sun is shining. I have my drinks. I have the same drinks that I drink home. I have the same food that I eat home. I have basically, you are super comfortable in that resort. And I get it. Like, for people, for example, Colin, he works a lot. Like he basically just wants to lay on the beach for a week and not move and just, get his drinks. And I get it, right? So that's definitely not saying that you shouldn't do that. But for me, if you really want to travel, if you want to experience the country, the culture, the foods, the everything, if you want to experience yourself, then for me, a resort, the same with cruise ships. Don't get me started on cruise ships.
No, sorry. Do it. What about cruise ship?
Cruise.
It's like I would and again, I don't want to offend anyone. I totally get the whole
idea. People on this show. Don't worry about it.
The whole idea around cruise ships. I get it, and it's definitely very easy to like see different islands, when you do a Caribbean cruise or whatever. Get it. The thing is, and I don't even know where to start. So obviously environment is also super important to me, which you also, when you travel and then you see different things, what we actually do to our planet and what we do with our behaviors, and like especially traveling too with the mass tourism and all of these things, like we basically destroy destination, right? And with the cruise ships, for example, I mean, not that it's like it's super bad for an environment. They basically like it's just a mass tourism of this cruise ship going to port. Like I don't know how many thousand people from the cruise ship storm off, and then they also, and there's a really good documentary you guys should watch. It's called The Last Tourist. It's made from Bruce Boone Tip. He's one of the people who, the producers. He is the founder of G Adventures, which is a sustainable group travel company, and they're all about like helping making the world a better place through travel. Anyway, on his documentary, they're talking about that the cruise ships, they work with like the shop owners from like the first, like basically when you go off the cruise ship, then they tell you like don't go any further than the first road because everything else is dangerous. And that's also where our fear is coming from, because the media, like everyone is telling you it is super unsafe to get out of the resort or out of the cruise ship and don't go any further because you're going to get killed. Right. And
or kidnapped or whatever, many things.
Yeah. And I, for example, also had a friend staying in Mexico the same time I was in Mexico. She was at a resort in Playa. And I had a scooter. I rented out a Airbnb with like a, Mexican family. And this is also for me, giving back, like supporting the local community, supporting them, because like, they survive on our money. And when you go on a resort, when you go on a cruise ship, the dollar you spend goes to a multimillionaire from like the States, and the community and the destination.
I can't wait.
But that's exactly, and basically the community and the destination does not really get anything from that money, because they usually, when you go off the cruise, then they work together with like those shop owners. And anyway, so then the whole fear around being unsafe. Again, my friend was staying in Playa, and I was renting, I had a scooter with my Airbnb. So I was driving around, like living my life in Tulum, and just like enjoying life. And I told her, just come down and we can drive around. We can go to cenote, we can, do fun stuff on the scooter. And she then told me that she's too afraid to leave the resort because Mexico is dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean,
you didn't see that while you were traveling all over the place alone on a scooter. You think you would have noticed.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I don't get me wrong. I mean, Mexico can't be dangerous. Just don't buy any drugs on a corner, on a dark corner from some, Mexican cartel members. Then you're fine, just like, again, go follow your intuition, like this is a dark corner. And again, when I was traveling on the scooter, middle of the night, I was driving like the main roads, try to not go in any like side streets, you just have to be smart and you have to listen to your gut feeling, like, oh, I shouldn't go in there, right? So
and
don't get me wrong. I mean, sorry?
And buy drugs on well-lit corners.
Yeah.
Pat is very anti-drug, so that might come out at some moment.
No, we're good. Well, it's funny because one of the things, and I want to circle back to this, but you were talking about plant medicines and that sort of thing. And a company that I'm very highly invested in is this Cybin, which is this mushrooms derivative for mental health treatments and that sort of thing. So I do want to come back to that. We will come back to that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Tulum is a city that I've heard a lot about recently, probably in the last 3 or 4 years. COVID, right? We lost 2, but like 3 or 4 years, Tulum has been a name that has popped up more and more and more. And is it becoming more and more of a hotbed for kind of Canadian traveler, or is it more like a Western travel destination? Because growing up, it was not a name that I ever heard of. It was Cancun. It was, the very spring breaky type kind of things. And now Tulum doesn't feel like that, I don't think.
So Tulum has 2 sites, and it can be very bushy. Like the main strip along the beach is very much all party, rich people, like very bushy, and like I did not like the vibes there. But there's also really, really big spiritual community, and something super interesting, because again, like Tulum comes up so many times now. Like basically everyone is in Tulum right now. And there's a lot of digital nomads living down there, because they create, like, there's a bunch of Bitcoin, you know, they have a big community around Bitcoins. There's like so many communities from like all around the world. And like, I'm, for example, met a guy, he used to live in Bali for like 20 years. Now he traveled to Tulum. And basically, a lot of people meet there now because Tulum has a very special energy. So Tulum is built underwater. So all the cenotes you can see, you know, those pretty little lakes.
Yeah.
Basically, Tulum is built on water. So like there's this whole energy around Tulum. It's basically a portal. So either it sucks you in and you stay, or it kicks you out.
That's why.
And I heard something super interesting from a guy. We were also talking about that so many people come to Tulum and feel drawn to Tulum. And I was one of them, right? I like 2 years ago, I'm like, you know, something about this place draws me in. And he was saying, obviously the Mayans, like there's a big Maya ruin in Tulum, right on the beach. So it was a really important ruin for the Mayas. And they were saying that now a lot of Maya souls return back to their home. And I thought that was super interesting, because yeah, it just feels like this, right? From like all around the world, like those people come and meet in that.
Like if I were to return to Tulum, I was drawn there, then it was my Mayan spirit inside me is being drawn that way. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's what that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. Like I could totally get into that. Yeah, for sure. I could like, because there are some times when you I know I walk down the street, I will see a person and you have a connection without a connection. You just know. Or the first time you meet someone, it's like you guys have known each other forever, and it's just a weird occasion. You just seem to know a lot about each other, and your conversation flows easier than any other time. So I get that. Like sometimes I think sometimes our souls just know each other, and yeah, that could be a thing. Pat?
I like that. You're talking about me, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm talking in a past life, I believe. No, I won't go there.
Well, I think that's amazing. Again, like Tulum, the things that I've heard about it are, again, fantastic. You brought up something that is kind of near and dear to my heart, and Bitcoin.
Money.
Yeah, that's what I was going back to, right? Yeah. Did you have much in the way of conversations with people down there about that whole concept? No, and I wonder, because I had heard that there were a lot of people that were, especially during COVID, when they were being able to digitally remotely work, being able to trade, that sort of thing, being able to remote for a lot of these areas, like you said, to go to some of these fantastic areas of the world that otherwise were out of the confines of what your 9 to 5 could ever offer you, and just relocate there for the last 2 years while you're getting paid to do your work remotely. Why wouldn't you? Right?
Exactly. And that's what so many people do. I mean, I try to look into Bitcoin. It's just not, I'm more around my travel business. And this is how, I mean, I'm trying to like be, you know, a digital nomad as well, just because it just gives you so much more freedom. But obviously Bitcoin is like, just, you know, they had like meetups, they had like shirts made. So you knew exactly he's part of the Bitcoin community from Tulum. Because they have meetups every Wednesday. They have like this huge community around it, because it's a lot of digital nomads making money online with Bitcoin, right? So it's like, yeah, it's amazing.
That's super interesting. Like, so right now in Canada, we have the opportunity to educate our kids online. And so Pat and I have been talking about that a lot, because he was talking about his daughter could literally take a year off school, but do it online. And he could take her anywhere in the world, many places in the world, and do an education in world history and life, at the same time get a Canadian education. And it just opens up so many things. Now, but my argument with it is that you have to have a unique child to do that. Like, so his child is unique. She is a go-getter, much like my kids, that would sit down at that computer, even though the beach is outside, would get that done and then go to the beach or go to the history museum or whatever. So do you think there's any future in that now that we have opened up that area of teaching?
I think so. I mean, I also see a lot of like travelers like just homeschooling their kids, right? And obviously, yes, it definitely takes, I mean, even for me, like working online and building my business online, it definitely takes you know, you definitely have to be on point and like, oh, you know, it's nice outside, I want to go for a paddle, but you know what I mean? So it's definitely takes some how do you say? I see now I'm like
endurance, motivation, dedication.
Dedication. Thank you. See, that happens to me sometimes. I want to say a word and it's not coming into my mind, and then I'm like, oh my god, what should I say?
Yeah, but anyway, you speak two languages, and that happens to you. I speak one language, and it happens to me every third word. That has to help me out. Like
I'm constantly fixing
on these bad podcasts. So don't feel bad at all.
Yeah,
all the time, literally, Denise. So dedication, yes.
So again, with the education system, the way that it's going, I think that it's going to, especially where I see the education system in Ontario progressing to. So do you follow politics at all, really? Not so much.
Not at all.
Not at all. So you're smart, right? You get to like self-actualization, you get to do all that stuff, and we're sitting here in the
I'm in my little bubble. I'm in my little bubble. It's great there. I don't watch the news. I don't like get into like all of that stuff. It's
Love it. I love it. Well, we just went through an election here where we've elected some conservatives.
There anyway.
We're going there briefly.
Yeah.
That's I think a big thing that's coming down the pipe is that I think that you're going to have these online curriculums being propagated again for these students, right? Whether it's about COVID, around COVID, because of COVID, in spite of COVID, because it's a budget cutting expenditure, right? So I think, I really do believe wholeheartedly that they're going to be a massive push for online learning for families. And I know, like, again, I was saying that my father passed away here. If my father hadn't have been in the situation that he was, and as sick as he was, probably the second year of COVID, I would have really, really, really considered doing it, or at least taking a good chunk of that year and going and doing it, right? So it's, I think that if you have the digital nomad lifestyle or that propensity to it, I think that the education system is there, as opposed to the old international school kind of curriculums that were before, that were super expensive, first of all, and kind of problematic, right? I think some people that I knew that had done them over the years, while they're like, well, my kid's doing this today.
You mean like an exchange student? Like you go to France, your kid goes to France, stays there a bit, and then comes back? Is that what you're talking about?
No. So the international school curriculum is basically like it used to be tele for years. So you would have a teacher and you would like voice conference in, and they would teach your kid all day.
Oh, I didn't know.
It was very much what we did during COVID, to be honest. So, but it was like $30,000 or $40,000 a year. Like they're very expensive programs, right? But it gave these people that could be the pre-digital nomads, right. It gave them the opportunity to do this. And it is an interesting lifestyle that I think especially millennial generation is exchanging a lot of things as far as the asset values for that freedom. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that that's a very interesting thing. And like you were saying about Airbnb, to like, for myself, I'm looking to purchase property here again in the near future, do some big capital investments. And Airbnb, I think as long as the world doesn't end in a recession here really soon, there's going to be some real opportunities, because people are looking to find really cool destinations that exactly what your business is built around. I think it's a very interesting concept. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And more people crave that too, right? Because like everyone is in this 9-to-5 rat race and basically not living their life. And especially coming here to Canada, I was shocked. Like Colin, he like traveled once to Cuba. That's it. Like he never left Canada otherwise. And I'm like, you guys have to go see the world, you know? So yeah, I think it comes more and more. And that's why I just want to help people, like, okay, get over your fears, get over your limiting beliefs, and go out in the world and experience cool stuff. And I actually also, I mean, my biggest dream is also to like have property and have like some fun, like some sort of like special tree houses or whatever, right? And also run retreats on there and just like, you know, have this community. And I think that's also something, community, you know, especially after COVID, I feel like that a lot of people more and more crave like just having a community around, right? And like going on a retreat, that is like super in common, because you just like try to like find yourself again and like recenter and just have a community of like-minded people around you. So yeah, I think I really, really hope that that will, and I think it will definitely take off with travel.
Oh, absolutely. Like, so you were talking about Canada, and I hear you with that. So like Colin and myself and Pat, and we live in a country that's not like a country that you come from. Like your country, you can travel anywhere pretty quickly, fairly inexpensively. If I want to drive to Ottawa, it's going to cost me a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like if I want to fly to Vancouver, it's like $500. So we limit ourselves because we've convinced ourselves in Canada and probably in the States too. I'm not sure because I don't know a lot about the States. Pat does. We've convinced ourselves that until we amass a fortune, there is no travel. And it wasn't until like 4 years ago that I went on my first trip. Up until that point, my kids and I went to like Algonquin Park. We did some camping. We did go to Saskatchewan once, but we drove there. But it was all
what? Hang on, you went where?
Saskatchewan.
Really?
Yeah.
Bustling metropolis.
Yeah. Well, it was a wedding. We went to Candle Lake, Saskatchewan. It was lovely. It looked just like Ontario. Actually, it was weird. But yeah. So I think that's some of the problem that we have here is that we get caught up in, especially my age, my generation was you work until you have your house, your kids are okay, everything's fine, and you're working to amass a fortune, and then you don't get to have the fun with that fortune until you get to a certain age and your kids are fine and your house is paid off and this is done and you don't have that debt. And it's a crazy thing because now I see this younger generation, like my kids. The first thing Andrew did, he just finished university, walked out of university. The first thing he did was fly to Universal and then New York. Like it was the first thing he did. Like how many kids are coming out of university, 5 years of debt and going on a trip and then coming back and buying a car? Like it's a different mindset. It's not a wrong mindset. It's just opposite to what I am used to. And I'm trying to get into that mindset myself now because I do have money now, but I still sometimes am afraid to let go of it because there's always that fear you're going to need a new roof or something. And I think that's part of the problem because in Canada, if I could hop on a train and be in Germany, I think I'd do it. But because I can't, I think that holds me back a bit.
Mm-hmm. I have to say something about this, the fear of like, having the security and obviously, and the Germans are very much like save and work hard and all of that. Right. So, but, and I was actually just doing a 3-day travel challenge and I was talking about that as well, that when we always live in fear that something might happen, that's again, law of attraction energy. Like when you think the whole time, like I can't spend my money because I need it for like emergencies and all of those things, then this will happen, like when you go on that frequency of like, abundant and like money comes and goes, like it will flow back into your life, like it's such a different mindset, and it's when you always live in fear that something might happen, you never live your life to the fullest. And that's what like my motto is, like live your life to the fullest, because you don't know what happens tomorrow. I mean, if I have like money on the side for my roof, but next year I'm not going to be here anymore, like,
Right? Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. Yeah. Like the whole thing is I've always made money. There's never been a fear of me not making money. I could literally go to any country, find a job. I can talk my way into a job. I work hard. It's an unrealistic fear. And I talk a lot about it that in my little podcast that I do on the side, Soaring Profits, but Pat does a money one and I do motivation. And I talk a lot about how fear is illusion. Fear is like what you think could happen, what you create in your mind, but none of it's real. Because once you get there, every time it's not real. Yeah. None of that happens. You want to jump off a plane. Up until leading up to jumping out of that plane, you're terrified. But the moment that you're actually, like Will Smith says this, the moment that you're actually jumping, that's the time that you're in danger. The fear goes away. So why build up all that fear all the way up? So I totally get what you say. It's a mindset, and that vibration, you can pull in tragedy. You absolutely can. If you vibrate in a tragic way where you're a negative person, you have negative thoughts, you preach negativity, you draw negative people to you. And if you vibrate on a positive thing, which is what Pat and I, Pat doesn't know he's on this journey, but he is. We've started drawing all these like very positive, very high energy, very driven people that want to change, want to improve, want to do things in their life instead of just that 9 to 5 head down. And that's what Pat and I are on the journey of right now, is we're trying to find other sources of income, but other sources to enjoy this journey that we're on. Mm-hmm. Not together, but
I don't know. I think it's a very interesting concept, and like you say, is that and again, I've touched base a few times about my father today, and this is something that my father was fantastic at. Is he had an old saying, and it was walk in there like you own the place. And from a very young age, I have just done that. And it's whether it be starting businesses when I was young or that sort of thing. I was very, very comfortable talking, very comfortable entering situations. I think I've lost relationships because I talk to everybody whenever I go anywhere. Like every girlfriend I've ever had is like, would you leave her alone? She's checking you out at Sobeys. Whoever it is, I'm just talking to them, right? And then,
yeah.
What? Sorry?
It's very true.
Right.
Good. Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I've never kind of, inwardly looked at that as something that other people don't necessarily comfortably do. Mm-hmm. It's just very natural to me. And that's where, watching James and what he's, put together here with his domino journey, folks. Is something that, some of the internal dialogue that he's had with himself throughout all of his life, and then to be where he is now. And James is so comfortable in talking with people. He just engages people. He draws people in scenarios that, years ago, like you say, man, like you wouldn't probably have done those things, right? You wouldn't have had that zone. So to see that transition, that pivot, that mindset alteration, right? That's very cool. Very cool.
I think and that's what I've learned since I'm back from Mexico. I constantly step outside of my comfort zone. And the more you do that, the more comfortable you get with like situations you don't know, right? Going back to the unknown. Like the more you go out of that comfort zone and the more you deal with situations. So it's your fight or flight mode, right? Like your brain is basically telling you you're in danger. You have to go, like, don't do this, right? But you can basically train your brain to stay calm in situations, right? Like you do that more often. You step outside of your comfort zone. You didn't die. Your brain recognizes, oh, we didn't die. Okay, next time we're a little bit more calm, and and that's how you train it, right? And probably with James and with me too now, like being like live talking to you guys, like now it's not a big deal, but like even before Mexico, I'm like, I have such a fear around it because you just create this whole situation in your head. And now it's just like, and I feel it like every time there's a situation. And that's the other thing I would say to everyone out there. Start saying yes. Start saying yes to opportunities, start saying yes to things you would usually say no to. That's a really good thing to like gain more confidence in stepping outside of your comfort zone, because your brain automatically says, no, we're not going to do this. I don't know anything about it. It's out of my comfort zone, not doing it. But then just think about it twice and just say, well, why not? Like, let's try. Right. So that's something I would definitely suggest in situations like that.
Yeah, totally. Like you kind of just have to put your blinders on like you're a horse, and you kind of block out everything else. And you're just like, that's my goal. I'm going to go do it. And then once you get into the situation, all that fear goes away because it's not real, like I've been saying. And the more you do it, the more you just feel free. Like the more, like when we first started doing podcasts, you could see our nerves. You could see, like, I was constantly fixing my hair. I still do it, but we're constantly checking ourselves out and changing our voices and stuff. And now we just kind of flow. We joke around. We're silly. We just go with it. But it's because we put ourselves in it again and again and again. And it's the same with traveling. It's the same with, I have a camping group that I go to, and I went and camped with 6 strangers that I've never met before in the 3-hour kayak away. And it was a great experience. I met a gentleman that was a banker from Toronto, big high up banker that does marketing, stock markets. I met another guy who just runs a camping site. I met a wonderful woman who knows everything there is to know about mushrooms. Like the diversity of this group was mind-boggling, because here I was, like, who I am, and it was just interesting, all the different personalities. And we got, for the most part, we got along great for the 3 days we were there. And it just was a wonderful journey. And then the next time I went on a kayak journey with 50 people, and we just like spent a couple hours on a lake. And just each time leading up to it, I was very much going, I'm not going, I'm not going, I'm not going, I'm not going. And I just, you got to put the blinders on and go. And then once you get there and you're inside it, it's so freeing. And then the next time, you get that text message, or you get that Facebook message, or one of your things pops up and it goes, hey, we're going to do a 10-day in Bali. I don't know. I got nothing. What's behind me again, Pat?
Santorini. There you go. See, she knew it. That's awesome.
Nice. That's how she's a travel agent. Yeah. So Pat and I, let's go to Santorini and see the blue. So the reason that this is behind me, the people who watch us probably know, in our podcast in the Oculus, which is our cartoon versions of ourselves, we often shoot here.
In Santorini.
In Santorini.
Oh.
Yeah. So when I saw the picture, I'm like, that's going to be my new background. So
on the beach, in the villa. Stop by sometime.
Yeah, come on by. It's nice.
Your people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no bar. There's no place to eat. No place to sleep. Just
you don't even have legs.
We don't even have legs. Weird.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. I agree with you 100%, Denise. If you start, then you will just gain the confidence, and that's what I've been doing. I've been gaining the confidence in myself, but it has to come from within out. If you're constantly worried about being outwardly liked, outwardly accepted, I talk about, so I had extreme anxiety, and my anxiety was social. I had extremes, like really bad social anxiety, that I would go to a party, and instead of engaging with people, I would go sit in the corner. If I saw someone who was kind of like me, I'd go talk to them, but that was it. I wouldn't engage if I didn't know them. If 5 people were sitting at the dinner table with me and a 6th came in that I didn't know, I would become quiet, because and just through my experiences, like I talk about, you have to go inside yourself and find out why does this happen? When it happens, what are the reasons? And a lot of it was, I was worried I wasn't going to be liked. I was worried I was going to be judged. I was worried that they were going to think that I wasn't bright, or that I didn't belong. I was terrified that someone was going to tell me I didn't belong. And I just had to get over that, because I do belong, right? You just got to get in that mindset that this is all ridiculous. Like, no one at the table is saying you don't belong. You're sitting at the table. If you didn't belong, you wouldn't be at the freaking table. You wouldn't be invited to the party. But that's all stuff I had to overcome from the inside out. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what that had to do with anything, but it did.
No, but it's bang on. And again, it's something that public speaking has always came very easily to me. Like, there's 1,001 things that I am absolute dog crap at.
Technology.
Trust me. Yeah, technology mostly. Work. Things. But like something like that has always been something. And I don't think I've given people, like, I know people in my personal life where I've just never maybe given them the opportunity to come out of themselves. Like, I've rushed things. Like, I know with my daughter, for instance, and like, I love my daughter to death, and she is very outgoing, almost by demand, right? Like, it's something that I've instilled in her, because I've seen enough people that have struggled with it all of their lives, where I'm like, it's unacceptable. You're going to meet people, you're going to shake hands, you're going to look people in the eye, you're going to like overtly do those things, because they are so important, and they're so important for you internally. So that my daughter's 12. I know, Denise, you've never met my daughter, but my daughter's 12, and she's got her first job, right? 12 years old. I think that's fantastic. That's now, right, at 12 years old, she's obviously made an impression with people enough that they're going to put her in charge of children, right? Like,
Yeah.
what?
After meeting him. Can you imagine meeting him and then letting his daughter watch children? I don't understand it.
What are they thinking? But again, it's one of those things that it's so important. And I think that the quicker that people can get to that, and again, we talked yesterday a lot about self-actualization and how you identify and how you see yourself and what you pull out of yourself and then what you project out into the world kind of thing. And it's super, super important to get to that level where you have that comfort as soon as possible, right? So to do that work, that's very cool.
And you kind of built that because so we were talking about gymnastics. Harlow did a gymnastics event where it was like what was it, regional?
Provincials, yeah. So
gymnastics. So Pat, most parents, walk up to the table and go, "This is Harlow. This is, where do I sign?" All that. He walked into the room and said, "There's your table," and then kept walking, right? Because that's how you throw them into the fire and then they learn. And she is just this vibrant. She's much like you, Denise. She is vibrant. She has a big personality. You notice her definitely. And she just has you can have a great conversation with this young 12-year-old lady that most 12-year-olds, you can't have a conversation like that with. She just knows. She's a bit too conservative. That's the only critique.
We're so proud of her.
Only critique.
Yeah. You gotta go to high school sometimes. I'm sure they'll beat some liberal into her there.
Yeah, I'm hoping when she goes to university in that course I'm going to pay for.
Yeah. Lesbian dance theory, is that what it was?
No, it was women's issues.
Women's issues, yeah.
Sorry, it's an insight.
I love women and their issues.
It's not meant to be offensive, but Pat's hoping that his daughter will go in like business or something like that. So I had messaged Harlow and said, if you could just say to your dad that someone came into school and now you're really excited about going to university for women's issues, I would love that. And so she did. She went to him and instantly she's messaging
like straight face.
What
she's
are
like,
you doing?
the straight face. She's like, "Dad, I've been, you asked me a little while ago about, where I see myself in the future and what I want to do as I get older and stuff like that." And she's like, I really think like women's issues at like maybe, the university in our town here. And I looked at her, I'm like, James? Was James like you? And she like breaks down immediately, like laughing. She's like, maybe. No, but it is. And we joke about that stuff, but 100%, getting people to that level. One of the things that we talked about when we first started here was like the psilocybin and ayahuasca. Now, in those experiences with like kind of so I've done native sweat lodges here in Canada, and I did that with the OPP years and years and years ago. And that was kind of a cultural thing. And I went in, we did the sweat lodge. And like you said, going in very dark, crawling in, almost dying. And then coming out on the other side, this rebirth aspect. A lot of things that I've heard about with Tulum, especially, is these, medicinal experiences that people have been having. That's my text going pinging again.
I hope it's not me. I'm sorry.
Why? It's totally him. Every live podcast we have, he gains nonstop.
Don't have to turn off notifications. I just
wanted his attention today, and he's like, "Okay, I got it. I got it off now."
Anyways,
yeah. So I think what he's wondering is like, so the ayahuasca experience. Have you ever experienced something like that? I have not. I've thought about it, but I'm terrified because, like I said, I'm afraid of letting go. And ayahuasca, everything I've watched, everything I've read is you have to let go. You don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm. So I actually was planning on doing it in Mexico while I was there, but it didn't work out, and that's totally fine, because what they say, and especially in South America, like they call it plant medicine, like all of like mushrooms, ayahuasca, there's bufo, there's like all sorts of like frog poison and all of that stuff, and they call it plant medicine, right? So it's basically Mother Aya, and ayahuasca is one of the top like teachers basically, and they say that ayahuasca, when you're ready, like it will come to you. Like you don't have to look for it. And I mean, when you hear all of those crazy stories about people shitting themselves and like worst scenario, that's just because they just didn't prepare themselves properly to go on this journey, right? And they didn't, like, for example, when you do the ayahuasca trip, you have to watch your diet. You shouldn't eat anything citrusy, or like, you know, there's a specific diet you should follow because of those things. Because what ayahuasca does is basically just purge everything out of you, everything what is toxic, everything what you need to let go of, everything, you know. And that's sometimes purging and shitting yourself and all of those things.
Right.
I mean, I talk to many people down there because, like you said, Pat, like Tulum and South America in general is very much all about like plant medicine, because that's just the next level, because you just connect with like the 5D, with the spiritual world, right, with yourself. And you know, I was talking again about these things with a couple of people, and they were saying you're still there. Like you can still stand up and walk into the bathroom and do your thing there. It's not that you're like laying there like completely, you know, and I feel like that's what a lot of people think about when they especially think about ayahuasca. But when you go to South America, again, like there's a lot of like camps and stuff where you really spend like 2 weeks with the tribes, and they really prepare you for that journey. And they're also there. There's always a shaman around, and they just help you, right? They help you if you need help, if you go through, like, obviously some people go through a bad trip, but that's also like, you have to go through that to like step out of that bad energy, or out of like whatever you're working through, right? Like a lot of people definitely have like a tough trip, but afterwards, talking about rebirth, like it's really like you just deal with yourself, you deal with the emotion, you deal with everything that comes. Like they say that ayahuasca really teaches you what you have to know. And for some people it's a positive journey, and they get a lot of like downloads and a lot of like inspiration with like how to continue with their lives and all of that stuff. A lot of people who have like trauma and like healing to do, like they have to go through this healing process, right? And the same with bufo and all of those other things. It's you know, it's definitely important that people know. I mean, it's a very intense trip, and you have to be prepared for it mentally and also physically. And it's definitely, yeah, I mean, it will, when you're ready, it will come to you. Like you don't go just, and a lot of people do that too. Like they travel down to South America and just like, oh, let's do ayahuasca tomorrow. And then it's just like, you know, get into this whole face experience.
So you would suggest, if anyone were to do it, that you go and you do the whole journey, where it's the prep time ahead of time and then lead into it, rather than, well, I got nothing to do today, why don't we go do some ayahuasca? Because that would be a mistake, because you need some prep time beforehand, just like everything else you do, to prepare yourself. And most people in that area would recommend that anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of tribes, so there are different shamans coming, like especially in Tulum, like they have like shamans traveling up from Brazil, or many people, or from like different countries. And there are different tribes, and also the whole ceremony around it is sometimes very different from one thing to another, right? So it's also important to really like research which tribe you want to do your journey with, because obviously the shaman also brings their energy in it, you know. And like it's very important that you prepare yourself and really like, you know, do your homework, and especially like when you go down to Tulum, you can talk to many people who then will definitely help you finding those tribes, or like finding those specific shamans you should do it with. But yeah, it's
are there any conservative shaman?
No.
So the reason I asked that, there's a real question behind that, is that so if you would have asked me 10 years ago, and like I'm 35 years old, 25, I still knew a little bit about the world, but if you would have asked me 10 years ago what that was, I would have never heard about it. And then you've got a guy like Joe Rogan who goes out there and has podcasted and talked about it, and he's opened up this, it almost seems like it's a tourism destination of self-actualization. And does that take away from kind of the essence or the spirituality of it? Like, do you have dudes that are kind of like, hey, I got some ayahuasca in my coat. Do you want to buy a watch too? I got one over here. Like is it, how does that run?
No, you definitely, it's not that it's like you buy weed on the sides on the corner of the street. It's definitely run like, I mean, obviously there are shamans who also like, and again, going back to negative or like just energy in general, like there are a lot of shamans who definitely are bringing a little bit of dark energy with it, or like, you know, treating the plant, because it's a plant, right? It's a healing, it's plant medicine, right? And some of them are definitely better than the others, but it's not that you can buy it somewhere and you definitely go into that space and it's all set up, but it just depends on I guess how professional, or however you say, or like how connected is, like, it definitely makes a difference with who you're doing it and where you're doing it. And there are definitely tourist destinations where, you know, they just do it just because then you've done it. But like, you know, when you go down to South America and they talk about it, it's definitely, you know, it's they how you say, they not pray to it, but it's really like, they call it it's the mother of healing, and the mother, like, they're really like a lot of energy goes into
their religious spiritual journey. It's not not just like a tourist attraction, or the fact that the way we use weed or mushrooms, or they're doing it for a purpose. The purpose isn't to get high and forget that you exist. The purpose is to get a higher level of learning, to work through your trauma, to open your mind to a different level. Whereas in Canada and the States, we use it to forget our trauma. We use it to avoid our trauma, which is why it never works.
You're saying like drugs, substances, that sort of thing. The culture around them are very different.
Yeah, our culture around drugs is escapism. It sounds like the culture around drugs down there is to not escape. It's to delve in and get through it.
Mm-hmm. That was kind of what my question was based on. Is it like, has there become that tourist industry? And the first thing that kind of comes to mind, and I know they're very different things, obviously, is like mamajuana in the Dominican region, right? Like every guy in the corner's got a little bottle of mamajuana. It's like liquor and this root that everybody's selling you. It's like a tourist trap everywhere you go, right? Mamajuana. You've been to the Dominican, have you not?
Me? No, I've only been to Cuba and Mexico, but I've never heard of mamajuana.
Yeah, it's like it's like this touristy, trappy thing that it's everywhere, and it's very odd. And that's what I was wondering, if like when you get such a powerful name like Joe Rogan, and when you have this in cottage industry that's almost being driven up by what he's talking about, does it cancel that? And it sounds like the people that are doing it, because they take it so seriously, that they're like, you know, no, we don't want to get into that. And I think that's super important. And as far as a cultural thing, you know, we talk about taking over cultures and overtly changing them to make them Americanized, right? And Canadian. But it's really cool to see that hasn't necessarily taken root yet in such a unique experience. That's cool.
It's probably in other countries it's done that, right? In other places where they do those ceremonies, it's probably not the same.
I mean, that's what I've experienced, and I haven't looked I haven't looked a lot into that. That's just how I experienced, and how I guess it's also because I was around a spiritual community, and I'm pretty sure that there are facilities who, you know, use that, you know, money-making machine basically, because Joe Rogan talks about it, and people are like, oh, I want to do this, let's book a trip. And obviously there are always people who try to make money out of everything. But again, I think it's just I really got a better appreciation for everything, like the way they talk about even mushrooms also like plant medicine, right? And like what James was saying here, like everyone, and I was so I couldn't believe how many people here in Canada actually do mushrooms. Like for me, like coming from Europe, we have like more, and I love it because
you had him until that moment.
No. I have done tons of research on them. So I'm sorry to interrupt, first of all. So a company that I am very highly invested in is called Cybin, and I've talked with the people before about it. And that's what they are doing is they are taking psilocybin, chemically creating derivatives of it that are appropriate dosages, and dialing in the pharmaceutical properties of it, right? It would be like with the marijuana stuff, it would be like THC, right? We're going to dial that in. We're going to be able to synthesize that and go from there. Now, I'm not saying that's the best way to do it per se for what we're talking about, but from a pharmacological and a regulatory aspect, it's pivotal. It's how you're going to make sure that this becomes a legal process in Western legal countries like Canada.
And I think we were talking about it replacing like things like Oxy and stuff like
also, that. So more so like your Ritalins, like your ADHD, like your PTSD medications, those sorts of things. And this is where my question goes back to for you is that those experiences down there, those healing plants that we've kind of now as Western culture have kind of more embraced, like again, marijuana and whatever your political, ideology is on that, it's legal and people are doing it. And whether recreationally, medicinally, all of those things, there's a place, right? However we feel about it, there's a place. And as we expand that, I think we can all kind of go like heroin's not a great medicinal process. We might draw a line somewhere there with what is going to be legal. But mushrooms are, like you say, everyone now is looking at it. Like it's wild. Yeah.
It's good for you. Yeah. And what James was saying, I mean, here they use it more as a party drug and like kind of like forget, but like it's really when you look into all of the benefits from mushrooms, it's crazy, like microdosing, right? It's such a thing because it just like helps your brain function better. And like also so for example, we did on the retreat, we did ecstatic dance and we had cacao, which is also like a cacao, basically what chocolate is made of, just like the real cacao, that's also like they say it's a heart opening drink to open your heart. And we basically mixed mushrooms into it. And we went on this whole journey of like ecstatic dance and really just getting into it and like the way I felt like I was really present in the moment. I wasn't thinking about anything else. I was really just able to connect with myself and just enjoy the moment and really just go on this like journey with myself. You know what I mean? And it's just good for you. Like it was just for me. And now coming back, I have such a different outlook on mushrooms now because I really, rather honestly, like I'd rather take some mushrooms than drinking, right? Because like alcohol is way worse than taking a little bit of shrooms and really like go on a inner journey and like really, even when you meditate and all of these things, like it's just like such a deeper journey and experience when you do microdosing and all of these things, right? So I'm super happy that Canada, I mean Germany is now jumping on the how do you say jumping
bandwagon?
on the
bandwagon?
Yeah, that's the one. With weed. So now even Germany talks about legalizing weed, right? And I'm like, yes, people, because like it has such a healing. It's plant medicine, it's nothing synthetic. It's like pure. It's from the planet. It's from our earth. It's and it has so many healing properties. So I'm super excited about this whole journey.
You're absolutely right. It's funny because alcohol has been proven to damage us way more with one drink, let alone the amount that we do drink to do things. And people abuse it so many ways. And it's like people who do mushrooms don't generally abuse mushrooms. People who do mushrooms don't, like, I've seen people abuse weed, and the way they abuse weed is they get into weed to forget for the wrong reasons that we talk about. It's mental health, and they don't know how to deal with their depression or their trauma, and they start smoking weed, and then it just takes over their life, and they don't get out, they don't work, they don't, do anything. So I think weed can be addictive, even though people say it can't. But in that way, just like the same way alcohol can be addictive, it can take over your life. But I've never seen anyone who does mushrooms have that effect. It's usually, like you're saying, it's this experience that they have where it's eye-opening, it's uplifting, it's releasing, it's a whole different kind of feeling that you get inside. it is always better when you're with other people. But it was interesting that you said that you were like, because you were with 10 other women, strangers, in a place that you've been there for a couple of days, and you were dancing. Like, whereas would you walk on into Toronto into a club and just start dancing? Right? No, you'd be worried about what you look like, who's around you, what's going on. But that little eye-opening kind of released you from yourself enough that you could just dance. And I just think that's super cool, because it's such a hard thing to do, to release to that level that you can just be yourself. And you make odd movements dancing. Like, you don't have to pay attention to how you dance and worry about oh, people are going to make fun of me because my hands are up here. No one really cares, but you think they do.
Yeah.
Careful there, Santorini.
I love it.
You look like you're going to fall off the cliff there. We
have already kept her an hour and 10 minutes, I believe. And it's been delightful. I'm loving it. It just flows. Like I was telling Mike, he was like, oh, I only have about 45 minutes. I think he said. I'm like, sure, man, but we tend to talk a lot, and an hour and a half goes by. And so I'd like to leave with the fact. So if you were to talk to like a group of people out, like random people live on a podcast, and you were going to suggest a trip, their first trip, their next trip, or even a trip that you're planning right now, here's your floor. What would it be? What would you do? What would you say to the people out there? Come on, talk to me, because I'm going to set you up with, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I love it.
So thanks for opening that space for me, James. It's a really tough question, and there is no right answer, because what I do and what I can offer you is to help you figure out what is your why behind why do you want to travel, right? Like there are so many different reasons why people want to travel. It's to heal, it's to like escape, I actually just posted a post today on my Instagram, Inner Compass Travel.
There we go.
Perfect. Thank you. But it's a tough question, because for everyone, it's a different journey. It's a different, it doesn't have to be a backpacking trip through Australia for 9 months. You know what I mean? You can start small. It's all about connecting with your why. Why do you want to travel? And then we can go from there. Then we can do goal setting, create a plan. And for me, traveling is very healing and very, getting to know yourself. And this is a whole journey for me. So it's not I don't want to tell you like just go there and you're gonna be healed, right? It depends on why you want to travel. What is the purpose behind it, right? So that's what I do with the travel coaching. I help you connecting to your why, and then figure out where you want to go, help you planning the trip. I can book the trip for you, and I will also run a group trip soon. So I'm gonna probably also host retreats, and I want to do group trips, because James, what you were saying with like not knowing the people you travel with, right? And then having this fear around that unknown. So what I want to do is that I will have a group coaching container where I will help everyone, connecting with your why and doing some goal setting, and really helping you starting this journey and working through all of your fears and limiting beliefs. But then also have that community of like the people you already know from online, and then also me, and then we will meet in the destination, and that will be your first like solo travel. That will be your first. You go by yourself, but you don't have that fear around, I don't know anyone, so you still have that knowing that Denise will be there and she will help us. And then what I want to do is going deeper into like this journey, going on adventures, and like really push everyone out of their comfort zone, that they really have like the best experience. So that's what I'm gonna offer soon. I'm still working behind the scenes a lot, and like there's so many ideas, and I really have to put them together. But that's what I'm going to do, like the coaching aspect, and really like, and it's not just traveling, it's like a whole journey to like self-discovery, right? And like, as soon as you start, and that's why my company is called Inner Compass Travel, because as soon as you start listening to your inner compass, your life path will unfold itself right in front of you. You know what I mean? Like when I choose to go, and I didn't even know, that's the other thing. a lot of people don't even know that they need to travel. Like a lot of people don't know that this is what will help them, right? For me, when I was super unfulfilled in my 9 to 5, I just applied for another job, and then I didn't get that job. I just broke up with my boyfriend, and then I was at that point of my life where I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I'm gonna go travel, but that this was basically the start of changing my life so drastically. And now me living in Canada for 4 years, I have a Canadian permanent resident, I have a Canadian boyfriend, I would have never thought I'm moving to Canada. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, but as soon as I dove into this path and followed my inner compass, like everything just like constantly, like just, like I came back home from Asia. I was traveling around Asia for 3 months, and then I came back home and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. Got a job offer from Canada. Okay, let's move to Canada for 2 years. Now I'm here and starting my travel business, right? So anyway, it's a whole journey. It's a whole journey, and that's what I'm all about. It's like transformational. It will change your life. It's not just like sitting in a resort or on a cruise ship.
Well, that's what I love about your business, is that if I go to a travel agent, say I go to a Gulliver Travel down the road here, they have packages, and they're not designed for me at all. They're just designed for everybody. And then you pick your package and they sell it to you, and you go and you're the generic person on the field. But what you're describing is I contact you, and you and I work through what is going to be tailor made for my personality, for what I want to do, because this may be my only trip. A lot of people, you only get one shot. And, to have someone who knows, who has the experience to tailor make a trip for you, they bring out of you what your voice. I was talking to a ghostwriter. So a ghostwriter is someone who, I have a story that I want to tell. And so I don't know how to write. And so this wonderful woman who I met through, doesn't matter where I met her, it'll come to me. Damn it. Online. Anyway, I met her online, and she's a ghostwriter, and she talks about what she does is she connects with the client, and they tell the story, and then she writes it. But she writes it because she has a personal connection with the person. She's heard their voice. She's heard their history. She asks questions outside of the book. She gets to really know them, so that when she writes the book, it has their voice. And that's what you're doing. You're creating their voice. Like, I don't know how to create a voice in travel. I have no idea. I have no concept. I have no reference, but you do. So that when we sit down and talk, and what do you like? What do you enjoy doing? What are you afraid of? Whatever we go through, your spirituality, I'm going to end up with probably the greatest trip ever, because you're pulling my voice from me, my truth. I just think it's epic and awesome. And if you don't go see this woman, I don't know what to tell you. Like, don't go to a travel agent, because you're wasting your time. Go see this woman. She's going to set you up in a great big way.
Thank you so much.
She's
sunshine every day, right? Every morning. That's great.
Good morning.
Well, Denise, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This has been a very interesting topic. I'm glad that we had an opportunity to kind of pick your brain a little bit. Thank you for joining us. One last question before we jump off here. Southeast Asia with a 12-year-old, what would you say?
Southeast Asia.
Again, like, depends what you want to do. Like, do you want to do a typical backpacking journey? Do you want to stay in, like, I would suggest, I love Thailand. I really, really love Thailand. It's pretty cheap. It's like beautiful people. It's good food. It's beautiful beaches. And you can, but again, like, it really depends on what you want to experience, what you want to do, how long you want to stay. It's just like, but I really do love Thailand because it's just, a lot of people are hype about it, and also talking about over tourism, but it's just, and going to like the off the beaten path, like we went to like different islands where, just like drive around with the scooter and just like go to this to rooftop bar, like, just like, anyway, it's just, yeah.
That's
so
cool.
That's very cool.
What do you want to?
Sorry.
What do you want to experience with her?
Well, so that's the thing, right? So
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff, like for me, there is nothing. Again, the Ireland thing was something with my father that I wanted to do, and I will eventually do that. But there is nothing, I think, worse that I could imagine than like doing the cookie cutter like Europe trip. like I'd rather get hit in the head with a brick. I've seen the Eiffel Tower, right? I'm sure it's wonderful, right? It's not like I haven't seen pictures of it. I get that a French baguette with cheese on it underneath the Eiffel Tower with a bottle of wine is a cool experience, but like,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more where I'd like to just go do my own thing, right? And that's where I was wondering, like, there's Southeast Asia kind of pops off the mat for me just for the natural beauty of it. I'm a sucker for 54 degrees and humid, so who wouldn't be? And so no, I also understand that it's very culturally different than Canada. So to be able to take a young person with you and do that trip, that's something that I think you would have to fine tune and kind of dial in for what your expectations are, and to make sure that it's something that's appropriate and fits well for that age group. But
you just happen to know a woman that would be perfect to design something like
that. I'm just like, you don't know, you never know. There you go.
Never know.
Denise, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure meeting you.
Amazing.
Thank you for sharing your experiences. And I think, everyone should check out Inner Compass Travel. We'll throw it up again here.
There it is.
On Facebook and Instagram. Check it out. It's an absolute pleasure. I know James rants and raves about you. He loves you. He thinks you're fantastic.
Oh, she's amazing.
Was so thrilled to be able to get you there. So,
So we all have we have call signs at the kind of the end of our podcast. So mine is let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together. Pat's is
let's make some money together. What's yours?
What do you have for us?
What's yours? Give us a little snippet.
Always live life to the fullest.
Nice.
That was quite possibly the